Graduated Amherst in 1994. I was an English major. And having grown up in Detroit, Michigan, coming from an automotive family, I faced the decision, and I see many, many seniors in the room. I was facing this moment in time that you're all contemplating, sort of looking backward in time through the Amherst years that I had invested here, and almost aside from the Amherst years, to think about what is it that I most wanted to do. And I knew that I wasn't going to go the law, the medical, or the academic faculty route, and instead was going to try to make my way in business, because that was sort of the all-encompassing other category. And was drawn to the things that I loved, and growing up as I did in Detroit with a father in the automotive business, cars were a part of the dining room conversation, as well as the means for paying for braces and Amherst tuition, among other things. So I decided that at that moment in time, to the best of my very limited perspective, that I was going to pursue that which I knew and felt that I loved the most, and cars was one of those things. And so after 1 year in the sports information office, where I was the SID for the 94-95 year, I went to go work selling used and new cars at a dealership just up Route 9. And I did that for 2 years with the thought that at some point in time I was going to transition this insight into owning and operating my own car dealership, and specifically a Saturn car dealership, because the economics of Saturn were pretty favorable at the time. That didn't turn out so well, because Saturn has since discontinued. So I did that, and had a very average experience as far as it goes to car sales. I was an average car salesman, and I'm pretty sure the only Amherst grad in the directory doing it at the time. But came out of that and thought, if I want to pursue this seriously, I better get something more formal in my education. So I applied to business school, got into Indiana University, the Kelley School in Bloomington, and landed a great internship, or so I thought, at General Motors, another company that hasn't fared so well in the last several years. And in the summer of 1998, I eagerly went off back to Detroit. It was a homecoming of sorts, and went to go work literally sort of right down the hall from my father at Cadillac. And about 3 weeks into my internship, the 53-day union strike shut down the entire company, including more or less all the fun part of an internship program. So the breakfast with the CEO didn't happen. The trips out to the tech centers and opportunities to test cars in development didn't happen. Budget cuts killed all of that. And I realized at that moment in time that the car industry was more or less operated in 1998 as it had in 1928, and I didn't want to go into an industry that was so stagnant. So I reached back again through time, found something that I actually started to cultivate a lot at Amherst, which was a passion for media, the overlap of media, technology, and entertainment. And I had been a video game player on ancient systems, at least to my mind now, and had found a love for sports and entertainment at Amherst that I pursued through journalism and through the sports information office. And so networked my way through both open and clandestine means to land a job in the video game industry, where I did consumer marketing for 7 years. Got to work on some awesome brands, Roller Coaster Tycoon, Dungeons and Dragons Online, Dragon Ball Z, Monopoly, Scrabble, Battleship, Game of Life, some wonderful stuff, and got to meet along the way some really talented software developers. To my English major mind, were a cross between magicians and science fiction wizards and geeky engineers. And it was that love of the developer that landed me a job 4 years ago at Nokia, the world's largest mobile phone manufacturer. Nokia has around 30% of the mobile phone sales every year around the world. And Nokia, like Apple and like Android and RIM and others, supports a vibrant community of software developers. And so this opportunity to come and work with software developers, to bring them on board to Nokia, sell them on the Nokia opportunity to create apps, distribute apps, market apps, make them beautiful, sell millions, was something that was irresistible. So I work now in strategic marketing for Nokia's developer program. It's my job to make sure that the marketing that we do of our developer product, which includes tools to make stuff, design tools to make it beautiful, channel of distribution to make millions, and marketing tools to draw attention and eyeballs to your apps, that all of those things are the best that they can be, and that the developer consumers for this content can find it, use it, and achieve their dreams, change the world. And that's where I am.
Great. Thank you. Kristen.
My name is Kristen Spargo, and I'm currently the new advancement director in the advancement office, the advancement communications director. And so I just kind of jumped on the panel because I have a background in public relations and advertising. And when I was sitting in your shoes as an English major, and everyone was looking at me and saying, "Oh, you're an English major. What are you going to do? Teach?" And I thought, well, I don't know. Anything I want to do. I felt pretty ambitious, but I didn't have really a direction. So I remember sitting in the Career Center, and I looked at the descriptions of all the different careers, and I had the advertising and the public relations, and I scanned them madly, and I still have those actually, because I ended up in PR. And I actually took a job, my first job, not really knowing what I wanted to do, as an area coordinator here. And I ran the social council and was a area coordinator, and thought I wanted to be a dean of students at a small liberal arts college in New England. That was my first career ambition. And so I wanted to go into higher ed, and I ended up getting an internship at the U.S. Department of Education in student financial aid. And I had a great experience there, but I realized that I tend to be a little high energy, and just the bureaucratic environment of the federal government just wasn't a mix with my personality. And I ended up falling into PR, and through kind of a background in education. So I fell into communications in this PR firm that specialized in higher ed and K-12 education. And so I was really marrying my passion for education and the fact that I was a good thinker and a good writer. And it was a great fit, really small agency, which if you're going into kind of the PR world, I think small agencies are great starts because you get to do everything. If you're at a big behemoth, Weber Shandwick, you might be doing a lot of copying the first little bit. But agencies, small agencies, you get a lot of great experience early on. And so then it was the late 90s and the technology boom, and I thought, well, I don't know anything about technology. Maybe I should. So I got a job at a PR tech firm that married the intersection of technology, education, healthcare, and government, and worked with, you probably aren't going to know any of these companies, but worked on continued on the education vein, and stayed there for a couple of years, and really just throughout that early process was just really open to what don't I know, and let's pick up a project. Oh, I don't have any research experience. Let's volunteer and do a research project for a nonprofit. And so just kind of looked at all of the skill sets that I had and tried to pick up experience as I went along. And then I had a fated trip to Minneapolis, Minnesota, to my college roommate's wedding, and I met my future husband on the airplane flying to Minneapolis. And so again, life directions, you don't really know where they're going to take you, so be careful who you talk to on airplanes. So I ended up in Minneapolis, and so I was going out to Minnesota, and I thought, well, I don't really know. I had liked PR, but I wasn't really crazy about the pitching reporters, and so I thought, well, I don't really know what I want to do, but PR isn't it. So then, of course, there was a recession, and my biggest in into the job market was public relations. And so, again, being open to what you're doing, I did some freelancing when I first moved, but it was a recession. So when we were talking earlier on the panel about doing what you need to do, I took a job at Petite Sophisticate, and there was vacuuming the floors in my Amherst education. I was thinking, this is really what I signed up for. But I kept thinking about the fact that at my very core, who I am, I'm a writer, and all of these, I am just collecting stories, and I'm collecting experiences, and someday all these people I have met will come into some sort of piece that I'm writing. And finally, I did land my job at the largest agency in Minneapolis, and I remember using my 50% Petite Sophisticate to buy my new wardrobe, and so I stayed at Padilla for about 7.5 years. And I specialized in healthcare. And so when I was going to the market, I thought, well, I'm going to spend the rest of my life in Minnesota. I better get some healthcare experience. And I got my job with this much healthcare experience because this much healthcare experience I had was the exact niche they needed. It was healthcare and IT, and I did one freelance project that got me my job. And they had people say, you're not going to get it because they are looking for someone with this much healthcare experience. You've got this much. But I was able to sell them on my personality and my attitude and my writing ability and my ability to think strategically. And that carried me really well in my career at Padilla. And now I have this much healthcare experience. So, but again, building the experience of the market that you're in is really important. Where you want to live, look at the industry and figure out where your niche is. Because the world needs a lot of smart writers, and I think that the best PR people that I've seen in my career have been liberal arts majors because they know how to connect the issues, communicate effectively, and really engage readers and audiences, and that was served me really well. And so I was on this really fast track, exciting, about to be a VP of an agency in Minneapolis and working all the time. And I thought, I'm looking at this stage of my life. I have 3 small children under the age of 4, and I was at a big pressure agency, and it was not where I wanted to be. And I, on a whim, everything I seem to do is on a whim, I looked at the Amherst job board, and there was the perfect position for me as the Director of Advancement Communications and working to communicate with alumni. And I thought, I have worked with agencies and clients for all of these years. I want to focus on one organization. And what better one organization than one I care so passionately about? And so it all kind of fell into place, and I started in November. I moved into my house on Sunday. And so it's all a big transition. And, as you're kind of going through, I think, your career, just kind of be open to it. And I'm looking forward to our conversation. It's kind of a long, this has been my career path. So.
Well, as we do this, almost all the paths are interesting. So thank you.